Anyone.
Great. Hi, everyone. I am Jennifer Shabat, and I would like to introduce you guys to Liam Phillips, who is coming to Canada for a Talk to the Entities class, which I'm hosting. And just wanted to ask him a couple questions, maybe get some clarity on what Talk to the Entities is and what it could create and be in your life and the contribution that it could have for you. So, Liam.
Hey, everybody.
What is Talk to the Entities?
Well, that's great. That's a good question. What is it? And what's really come up in my reality a lot lately is that there is a lot of misinformation about talking or communicating with entities. And it's one of these areas that is you get the weirdest, the wildest, the wackiest people on the planet coming to this particular class, because the people that are drawn to it are people that are often really interested in consciousness and in the spirit world, but often the consciousness and the spirit world have not always been two things that have been put together in this reality. Often it's more like the spirit world and then everything that this reality makes important and significant and vital and valuable and real about it, which is often not true. So, things like about fear of entities and how you should talk to them and how you shouldn't talk to them and asking permission if you can clear someone, and all these weird-ass points of view that we've created from cults, religions, and people that study these sorts of things. And what I found is that these weird, wild, wacky people that are really interested in this are very confused because they know that if you bring more consciousness to the spirit world, it can really open up so many doors for people. And so many of us have this, the capacities with entities, but it's been so demonized and bastardized by the religious and the metaphysical cultures that they just basically lie or implant us to be afraid or have to talk through a priest to be able to talk with an entity. And none of that is true. So,
Good morning.
Good morning. There's a little entity.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
I was hoping I would get this done before they woke up, but not that really matters.
Oh, it's such a contribution. Any life, any. That's the definition of an entity, is anything that has a life force of its own. And so your daughter just jumped on your lap there, and she's got a life force of her own.
Right. Well, the interesting thing is I think sometimes people have this point of view that Talk to the Entities only means talking to entities without bodies. But what I'm figuring out, well, let me put it this way. So the first time I took a Talk to the Entities class, I had the point of view that I couldn't talk to entities, that I didn't have those capacities. But yet when I really started playing with communication with entities, I found that I was already doing that with my children. And I did it while I was pregnant. And then I also did it once they were outside of, once they had been born outside of my body. So it's what contribution could this be to our relationships with the entities that are still in bodies?
Well, this is one of the cool things about Talk to the Entities. And the way that I facilitate it is about becoming more conscious and bringing consciousness to an area that is often misunderstood hugely. We're actually in a training right now, and we've just broken for lunch. And I would say that 80% of what we've been doing this morning has been more about stepping into who we be and clearing all of that stuff that stops us from being that. Because once we really step into that, it's been more like a being you class in some respects. And once we step into that, our borders, our barriers, and all of those points of view that stop us from receiving from entities, receiving the communication, or receiving the communication with your children or your animals or nature spirits or your business, starts to become that much more fun and ease. Fun and ease, fun and ease.
Can you talk more about kind of like the business side of things or the money side of things? It's like how they can be an entity that you can actually communicate with and commune with. And
yeah, well, basically there are two types of entities. I call them natural ones and then created ones. Natural ones are like people without bodies, nature spirits, people in bodies, that sort of thing. And then there's these created ones like business and money. They're not. They're a created reality. They're not natural. If you go to Mars, you don't have money or business. So it's peculiar to this particular planet. But they do become their own entity, and even in big business, they often talk about a business entity. And a lot of people that are very successful with business, if you ask them if they talk to their businesses, they will say yes, they do. And it's like if you're writing a book, if you talk to the book, if you talk to an author, you'll know that they will tell you that they often talk to their project. Yeah. So that's a created entity, and so money is a created entity. So it has a life force of its own, and you can actually talk to it and commune with it and receive it and have fun with it and honor it. And when we have these points of view against money, when we don't honor it, when we don't look after it, when we don't receive it, it tends to go out of our reality. But we can also, entities, when we're willing to receive communication from entities without bodies, and right now I'm talking about people that have passed over, some entities are actually willing to contribute to us and are willing to help us create. Okay, weird things show up, like rings and things that have shown up when I've asked entities for financial contribution.
Sorry for distracting you. I'm just trying to feed my little monkey here.
Yes, monkeys too are entities. How does it go?
Yeah. Well, okay, there's a couple things that came up during that conversation. One of them was, Liam and I, it was inspired by a video that Liam made with Monica, but we decided to create a specialty evening class called Receiving from Nature Spirits. And the first time I watched that video, I was interested. It piqued my interest. It put me into question of like, what is receiving from nature spirits? But after having that conversation with Liam, I realized that I had the point of view that there was no nature spirits in the city. So as soon as I let go of that point of view, and I was like, what is receiving from nature spirits? And I never even realized that I asked the question, but I acknowledged after that I really did. And I kind of went about my day, and it was kind of a interesting, magical day. And I went for a walk with the girls to the park, the same walk that we always take. And my daughter was like, hey, look at those cherries. And I was like, whoa, never noticed those before. And then kept walking, and then found this Nanking cherry bush, which are my favorite. And still didn't really clue in that could have anything to do with nature spirits. And then all of a sudden I got this inspiration or this idea of hey, I should go down that alleyway. And logically in my mind right away, I'm like, yeah, I'll go down there because there's more shade, because it was hot out. But it's like I needed a logical reason to go down the alleyway. And then as soon as we start walking, I noticed this huge raspberry bush. And then finally it clicked in. I'm like, oh, that can be receiving from nature spirits. It's like, is that what led me to the raspberry bushes, and what contribution can like fruit and vegetables and stuff like that be for you and your body? It was just interesting. I never really thought of that as a possibility in the city. And then two, after that, I'm like, well, what else is possible with receiving from nature spirits, and how much have I cut it off because I'm living in the city and with the point of view of there's no nature spirits present in the city.
Yeah.
So I wonder if you can say a little
this
about that.
particular class, receiving from nature spirits, is a lovely introduction. Or if you've done the 2-day beginners talk to the entities class, it will expand on what you already have. But the way that I facilitate these classes is not that here I am the guru, I talk to entities. It's that we will pull out of you what you know, how you communicate. I remember years ago I did a course in Reiki, and it was my level 1. I did it in a town called Pune in India, and halfway through the course, I was getting so angry, so angry, and it wasn't until years later that I realised why I was angry. And one of the things is, when you get angry for no reason at somebody, then there can be a lie there. And what the facilitator or the teacher of Reiki was trying to get across to me was that you should be feeling heat in your hands now, and I wasn't. And so I was really making myself wrong, and I was cutting off my awareness of how I perceive energy in favour for hers, and I was getting angry because there was a lie there. Now, each of us have particular capacities with entities, and it's my job to teach you or facilitate you to know more about what you already know and expand on that. And then those areas that are a little bit dull and grey for you, we can bring some colour to, and you can learn some different techniques and try them out. And so this talking with or receiving from nature spirits will actually be going into the field, literally. And it's not a class that's going to be inside the house, as the other 2 classes are going to be, the intro and the 2-day. We're actually going to go out in the field. We're going to sense the energies and talk to the animals and the nature and the nature spirits. And the last time we did this, it was in Budapest, and it was phenomenal. We had a bunch of people, and in the end, they were leading. We got them to start leading the class, and it was a magnificent journey. And by the time we left the park, it was brighter. Literally, it went from this colour to Jennifer's beautiful blue top.
Oh, that's
or
awesome.
Maybe this colour to Jennifer's beautiful blue top.
So another thing is, like, it came up when Valley was kind of tugging at me. It's like, what are the ways in which entities, and I'm talking about people without bodies now, could be trying to get our attention that we're not recognizing as that?
A gazillion ways. And
yeah.
So I did actually do, maybe we could put it on this post somewhere, a really groovy little article on all sorts of, I called it Entities 101. And one of the things in that was that one of the first times I became aware that I could talk with entities was when I had hay fever. Now, I would have hay fever for 3 or 4 days and sneeze for 3 or 4 days in a row. And it would totally exhaust me, absolutely exhausting. And, you know, I looked at all of the natural ways of overcoming it. I thought it was because of the pollen where I lived. I looked at all of the different ways that I could change that. Sometimes I tried to wear masks, and that's no good because when you sneeze into a mask 24 times, it's like, I tried changing my diet. I tried homeopathics. Nothing worked until one day I asked the question, oh, is this entity trying to connect with me? And since then, I've never had hay fever again. And so our bodies can often give us an awareness of where entities are connecting with us. But often we go to the wrongness of the body, like I did with the hay fever, rather than going into the question of, okay, so what is this? And in the 2-day class, we'll be looking at a lot more about that. So, yeah, good question. Does that help?
Yeah, that does help.
Oh my God, it's my grandmother talking to me.
Oh, you mean talk to the entities can be fun? It doesn't have to be all serious.
Oh, yeah, it can be fun. And actually, if you just right now, if you tap into nature spirits, you may well find that a lot of them are fun. It's like when did we make this planet serious? It's like only with the invention of the human reality has it become serious. Before that, you don't see birds sitting on the wire complaining to their next door neighbour that they didn't get any worms this morning. You know, it's sort of like, oh, okay, let's see if we can find a worm. You know, they don't really have all of that weird ass shit about sadness and unhappiness and seriousness. So, and this is something that Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, talks about, is that for every person that laughs, it undoes 10 seethers. And what that means is that most people are only sharing their pain, their suffering, and their misery. And basically by vomiting that out or projecting that out into the universe, and it goes onto the planet too. And that starts to destroy the energies of the planet and also of the nature spirits. And so every time that we have a good old-fashioned laugh, we undo 10 of those. So it doesn't take that many people being happy to undo a lot of the unhappiness that's killing the nature spirits and killing the planet.
Cool.
It's like when you're happy, are you in judgment?
No.
No.
Daddy went to work.
And it's the judgment, it's this positive negative polarity that is really the death of the planet. It's we get rid of that. We don't have to get rid of it, but if we go beyond it, if we choose to go beyond it, we can have a totally different reality.
Well, there's another interesting thing that I noticed in nature. Like there's no lack in nature. It's like I have these tomato plants in my backyard, and it's like one of the plants has like probably like 60 tomatoes that are happening on it. It's like it produces as much as it possibly can, and it's like there doesn't seem to be a lack. And the first time I got an awareness of like what true abundance was by looking at nature and going, holy, like look at one apple tree and it's got hundreds of apples on it. And it's like, what if we could receive abundance from nature spirits and what they know about abundance?
So why don't you this afternoon go out and scream and yell at your tomato plant and see and just vomit all of the projection, all the unhappiness and see what happens to the tomatoes.
No, I've been giving them lots of love.
And science tells us that, yeah. They've done scientific experiments where they've things like where there's been no bees and no birds, they play the sounds of bees and birds, and the flowers start to produce pollen and everything and the plants start to become more alive. So when we bring that nurturing kindness energy to things, nature goes.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Well, it's interesting. It's like I actually remember the choice that I made to ask for like nature spirits to contribute to my garden.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting, like people still do the practice of like putting gnomes in their garden,
yeah.
But are they even aware of why they're doing it?
Well, funnily you should say that, because yesterday I was looking at a picture of a gnome, and I'm going, what are gnomes for? And now you just answered the question.
Right. Like people, like originally, or if people are aware of why they're choosing it, it's like you put gnomes in your garden to invite other gnomes in to contribute to the health of your garden or the maintenance of your garden. But yet people do it oftentimes without even knowing why they're doing it. They're just doing it because other people do it or whatever, or they're unconsciously aware of what is going
to. Can I just correct that? Because that's really funny. Are you still there?
Yeah. I had a call coming in on the other line, but yeah.
Unconsciously aware, that does not make sense to me.
Okay, so they're
that's sort
they're aware of it, but they're pretending not to be aware of it. That's what I mean. It's like
not cognitively aware, yeah.
They're not cognitively aware of what the reason is that they're putting the gnomes in their garden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. A lot of the people that like to come to these sorts of classes, they're not cognitively aware of what they're doing, but they are aware. And I know many years ago when I was a kid, I found school very difficult. I found it very difficult talking with people. I found it very difficult to communicate my ideas because they were so advanced. I mean, my mum would look at me and go, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so in my formative years, I started to making myself wrong for my awareness because I couldn't communicate it in a way that this reality does it with intelligence. And so I started to give up my awareness of things in favor for intelligence. And I've spent right up until this weekend, really, trying to prove how intelligent I am, rather than being aware. And so many of us have done that we have made, what we say and what we can write and the intelligence that we have and our knowledge that we have greater than our awareness of what we truly know, perceive, be, and can receive. And that's not wrong that we do that, but when we try to prove that intelligence, that we are intelligent, what we're trying to do is overcome what we've made wrong about being aware. So everywhere where you've misidentified and misapplied being intelligent as being aware, or IQ as being aware, can we now destroy and uncreate all of that?
Yeah.
Clearingstatement.com. Good, bad, right, wrong, pop, popcorn, ice, short boys and girls.
Cool. Theclearingstatement.com. Same thing.
I saw someone write it the other day, and everything that is, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Clearingstatement.com. And I thought, well, that's a great way of doing it. Oh, you've got another phone call coming in. So let's finish up there, Jennifer. And if you'd like to come on the classes, please either contact us or go to some of the links that will be down below. And we can create something totally different for you and receiving from, clearing, and communicating with entities. We'd love to meet you. We'd love to have fun with you. And I'd like to give you all a big hug. Cool.
Sorry, jumped out a little bit there.
That's all right. I just said goodbye to everyone, basically.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I missed the goodbye.
That's okay. Cool. So we'll post this video, and